Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to really try to go beyond just the buzzwords and really understand this agentic AI thing.
Yeah.
And we're using Jörg-Owe's essay as our guide for this.
Yeah, it's really a good pick for a deep dive, I think, because it goes, it doesn't just say, here's what it is. It kind of gets into how you would actually build agentic AI using a framework called LangChain.
Right. So for our listeners who maybe are already familiar with, ChatGPT or some of these other AI things, what would you say is the key difference here? I mean, we're not just sending a prompt and getting a response anymore, are we?
No, not really. Agentic AI, as Schmevet explains it, is about creating systems that can actually operate much more independently. One way to think about it is that a standard AI is like a chef who's following a recipe, right? They do a great job, but they really need those instructions.
Right.
But an agentic AI is more like a chef that can experiment and adapt recipes on the fly based on, what's in the pantry, maybe even invent entirely new dishes.
Okay, that's a pretty delicious analogy.
Yeah.
I like that. So is that what LangChain allows us to do? It gives developers the tools to kind of build this very adaptive system.
Yeah, it does. One of the key things it provides is, this structure for what Schneppert calls state management, which basically means the AI can remember past interactions and use that memory to kind of inform its future actions.
So it's not just about responding to that immediate prompt. It's about kind of building a whole context, like a history that it can actually learn from.
Precisely, yeah. And that's, I think, what makes these agents feel more well agentic, right? They're not just reacting, they're building on previous experiences.
See, that's where it starts to get really interesting to me, right? Like this idea of an AI having a memory, a sense of continuity.
And LangChain even takes it further by allowing developers to customize these memories. So you can actually design how the AI perceives and remembers information, tailoring it for very specific tasks.
So we're talking about a level of customization that goes way beyond what we see with a lot of off-the-shelf AI tools, right? It's almost like giving developers the power to shape the AI's personality.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that customization is really key to making agentic AI so versatile.
And Schneppert really gets into this idea of versatility, right? He talks about how LangChain can be used to build agents for everything from analyzing financial data to composing music.
He does. And that really comes back to, I think, another key aspect of LangChain, which is its modular design. It's kind of like a set of building blocks that developers can, put together in different ways to create all these different kinds of AI agents.
So you're not locked into one specific use case. You can adapt and modify the system for a whole bunch of different needs.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a big part of why it's gaining so much traction, I think, in the field of AI development.
It sounds like LangChain is almost like a meta tool, right? It's not the AI itself, but it's what gives you the power to actually build and shape the AI.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the scaffolding that allows developers to construct these really complex and capable AI agents.
So like Schneppert points out, the potential applications here are just vast.
Right.
But before we get too carried away with all the exciting possibilities, maybe we should step back for a second and think about something really crucial. What is this agency that we're talking about? What does that even mean?
Yeah, it really is fascinating when you think about it, right? We're giving these AI systems the ability to act on their own, almost like they have their own, goals and motivations.
It is fascinating, but it's also kind of that makes you think about the potential downsides. Right? If an AI is making decisions independently, how can we be sure it's making the right decisions?
Yeah.
The ones that align with our values and ethics and all that.
That's definitely a key caution. And Schneppert, he doesn't shy away from it at all. He actually emphasizes that the way LangChain is structured really helps to address this concern. For example, one of its core features is this emphasis on transparency.
Okay, so let's break that down a bit. What exactly does transparency mean when we're talking about an AI system that's built with LangChain?
Well, it means that developers can, to a large extent, actually trace the AI's decision-making process. They can see what data points it considered, which algorithms it applied, and how it ultimately arrived at a particular conclusion.
So it's not just a black box, spitting out answers. we actually have some visibility into its thought process.
Right, exactly. And that visibility is just crucial for building trust in these systems, right? If we can understand how the AI is making decisions, we're much more likely to trust those decisions, even if they're, maybe unexpected or a little bit unconventional.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's like having an audit trail for the AI's actions.
Exactly. And this transparency also helps with another important aspect, which is accountability, right? So something goes wrong, if the AI makes a mistake, we can go back and see why it made that mistake. And that allows us to identify any potential biases or flaws in the system and hopefully, correct them.
So it's not just about like preventing errors. It's about actually being able to learn from them and make the system, more robust over time.
Precisely. And that's where human oversight really comes in. Schneppat stresses that even with all this autonomy, agentic AI shouldn't be a completely hands-off thing. We still need human experts involved in the loop, monitoring the AI's actions, providing feedback, and making adjustments when necessary.
So it's more of a collaborative effort than a real partnership between humans and AI.
Yeah, that's the ideal scenario, I think, right?
Yeah.
We want to leverage the power and efficiency of AI, but we also need to maintain, a level of control, making sure that it's always serving our best interests.
And that brings us to a really important point that Schneppat makes. He argues that this ability to shape the AI's behavior is actually one of the key advantages of using LangChain.
And I think he's absolutely right. With LangChain, you're not just kind of deploying a pre-trained AI model and hoping for the best. You're actively involved in shaping how that model learns and adapts.
So it's not just about giving AI agency. It's about giving us the developers and the users the agency to control that AI.
Exactly. And that's a crucial distinction, especially as we move towards a future where AI plays a much bigger role in our lives.
It really seems like with LangChain and just agentic AI in general, we're kind of moving past this idea of AI as just a tool and more towards like AI as a collaborator.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. And I'm sure Schneppat would agree. He really sees agentic AI as having the potential to fundamentally change the way we work and solve problems.
But this collaboration, like we've been talking about, it comes with, a whole set of challenges and things we really need to consider, right?
Absolutely. And Schneppat's really clear about that. He spends a lot of time in the essay actually exploring these ethical implications of giving AI this kind of power, this level of autonomy.
So it's not just about, the technical how-to of building these agents. It's about the bigger picture, the societal impact and the responsibility that goes along with that.
Exactly. We have to think about questions of, bias, accountability, transparency, all that stuff right from the very beginning, even before we start building.
And it feels like there's a real need for ongoing research and discussion around these topics, right? We can't just assume that the technology is going to automatically solve all these ethical dilemmas for us.
I completely agree. And I think Schneppat shares that sentiment too, because he ends the essay with this call to action, basically urging researchers and developers to keep these ethical considerations front and center as they continue to kind of push the boundaries of what's possible with agentic AI.
So where do we go from here? What are some of the key takeaways that our listeners should really keep in mind as they kind of, enter this world of AI that's constantly evolving?
Well, I think one of the most important takeaways is that agentic AI, powered by frameworks like LangChain, this stuff is going to have a huge impact on our lives. It's not just a technological advancement, it's really a societal shift.
And as with any big societal shift, there are going to be opportunities and challenges, and it's up to us to really, engage in these conversations, ask the tough questions, and make sure that this technology is being developed and used in a responsible way.
Yeah, well said. I think we need to be informed, proactive, and most importantly, committed to shaping a future where AI benefits everyone, all of humanity.
Well, this has been a really fascinating look into the world of agentic AI, and we couldn't have done it without the insights of Jörg-Owe. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure. And to all our listeners out there, I definitely encourage you to check out Schneppat's essay and, really dig into this topic because there's so much more to discover and discuss.
And remember, keep asking those questions, stay curious, and be part of this conversation as we figure out, what the future of AI is going to look like together. So until next time, happy diving.